And Laura, okay, well, first of all, since I started recording, we are going to just announce that this is Module 8, Cosmic Self-Awareness for Total Wellness. And so we're going to jump into this here about our circuits, our gates and channels. It's a lot of information, and so I think what I'll do is I'll go through some of the basics first, and then we'll actually take a look at your charts, and we'll take a look at where you guys are with this, you know, within your own energy. And so it'll be hopefully really relevant to you to actually take a look at this for yourself and see what your circuitry is actually saying about you. And then on your own, you can dive in deeper into the gates and channels that come up that are sort of highlighted for you as things that you might want to look at, okay? So again, let me go back here and look at Laura's message. Okay, so Laura says, I've been feeling amazing and calm too, very happy. I've been doing my Peng Shen Gong daily, awesome. Not being consistent with the affirmations. I was pretty excited this morning when I was attempting to visualize the light through my body healing me, and it was a bright violet. Awesome. That is so cool. I love that. I love that. And Laura, is that something sort of new for you? When so visualizing the light, is that something new for you? You can go ahead and type that in the chat. Okay. So this week, we are talking about circuits, gates, and channels. And so this is really, you know, we're going to be contemplating this information, and the process of contemplation is really powerful, as you guys know. Just the act of focusing on this information will raise your vibration and take you to higher frequencies of being and healing. And Laura said yes to that question, so that's awesome. I love that. I love it. Okay, and so for this exercise, you will need your journal and your body graph. And so if you have that handy, that's perfect. If you don't have it handy, let me know. I do have them here, and we can touch on each person's circuitry so that, you know, you have that information tonight before we end the class. So what we're looking at here, and as you can see from the image on the screen, this is my body graph, and we're looking at the defined channels that define your circuitry. And as a part of having defined channels, we also have defined gates, or hanging gates is what they're also known as. And so the gates are going to be the parts of the channel, the circuitry, that doesn't go from one center to the other. So for example, you can see here, there's a red one, and then it turns white. So this would be considered a gate, a hanging gate. If it were completely filled in, it would be considered a channel. So over here, you can see that it goes from black to red, but it's completed, it's completely filled in with color, it's defined, that's a channel, okay? So the defined information of your gates and channels shows up on your body graph in black or red, or a combination. So there can be ones that are hashed like this, so it's a combination of black and red together. This one is black and red, then it goes into black. So you can see that there's a lot of different combinations that can show up on your body graph. And the red means that this is your unconscious. This is the design. So as you can see here, everything that's in red on the left-hand side of the chart is the design information. And on the right-hand side, this is personality. So personality is really that you have more conscious awareness of this energy in your body field. And on the design side, it's just really like very unconscious or subconscious. So there may be some awareness, but generally it's going to be things that other people notice about you that maybe you don't notice about yourself, unless you do a lot of, you know, sort of contemplation and diving in and really paying attention to what shows up for you. Okay, but the design side on the red is really what's driving us. It's really what is moving us through our experiences. The design is the driver. The personality is what we call the vehicle consciousness. And so the passenger consciousness. So the passenger consciousness, really, we think that that's the part that's driving, but it's really not. And we need to learn how to put that aspect of our being into the passenger seat and let the design sort of run the show. So we're not going to talk too much more about that, but I did want to give you guys that background on that. So what we are going to jump into tonight is the circuits. And there are three major circuit groups in human design. There's the collective, the individual, and the tribal. And then each one of these is broken down into subcircuits. And so you can see that it would take probably several hours to go through all of it. So we're not going to do all of it, but we will talk about our individual circuitry. And I will do my best to describe what that means for each one of you individually, okay? And so you can type in the chat if you want me to share this, if you want to share your individual circuitry with the group on this call, or if you want to do it, you know, separately. We can cover it separately in a one-on-one session as well. Okay, but you can let me know if one of you guys wants me to look at yours specifically. Okay, so Lynn, I'll do yours. We'll start with you first, and then anybody else can go as well. So again, speaking about the three major circuit groups, okay, great, Marina. Each of the circuits plays a unique role in sharing information, values, and individual strategies, and they all work in conjunction to further humanity. So there's a bigger purpose going on here. There's information here that is helping us to not only navigate within our own self and within our own life, but it also has to do with the interplay and the interconnectedness that we have with each other and with our world, with the community at large and the collective consciousness as well. So it says on a personal level, your defined circuits and gates will help you understand why you are the way you are and what drives you and why you may keep repeating certain themes in your life. And your defined circuits will also help you understand your life purpose and what you're here to share with the world. Okay. So let's take a look, first of all, let's take a look at Lynn's, because we're going to talk about the individual circuitry. And I think that, you know, I don't know, I have a lot of individual circuitry in my chart. And I think I tend to like gravitate toward a lot of people who are very individual for some reason. Who knows why? But let's take a look at the individual first. Okay, so we're going to look at Lynn's and we're going to look at Marina's. And so Lynn, we can see here that where it's all colored in blue, this represents individual circuitry. Okay, and so the individual circuit is about initiating change on the individual level. When one person gets a new idea or discovers a new way to do something, this energy is represented in the individual circuit. The energy here varies from the norm. It mutates and consequently it inspires change in others. So in human design, we use the word mutate. In our common language, it's transformation. So this energy is transformational. Just by being around people with this energy, you naturally will feel transformation, and they naturally will be giving off that energy of transformation without really necessarily having to say or do anything. It's just part of their nature and how they are. And so when the individual discovers a new perspective or a different way of doing things, they bring this change to the tribe, which is represented in the tribal circuit. Members of the tribe then spread the change to the greater whole of humanity, or the collective circuit. So an analogy or a story is like I always just kind of the story of like a caveman, you know, always kind of comes to me when I think of this, right? So there's like a guy or a girl who's, you know, figuring out how to make something, right? So she picks up like a sharp rock and she's like, this could be useful as a tool. So she starts to use that sharp rock to do something with it, and nobody else is doing this. It's just her. She just figures that out, right? And then somebody who sees her doing that, somebody with tribal circuitry, goes, oh, that's really interesting. Can I borrow that and share it with the rest of the group?" And the individual goes, I don't care. Yeah, sure. And so they take it, and then the next thing you know, the tribal unit is using that sharp rock to do something, whatever, the individual was using it for. And then the next thing you know, somebody else shows up with collective circuitry energy, and they go, "Hey, you know what? This is something that is going to be, this could be huge. Like, we should take this all over to the entire region and share it with all the tribes." And the first individual at that point is probably so disinterested because they've moved on to something else that now this thing becomes common knowledge and common use, and everybody uses the sharp rock to do whatever, right? So that's kind of my my little analogy for that. So the individual is the person who's like just kind of discovering this new thing and just starts using it. And other people realize that it has benefit, and that creates the mutation or the transformation. So the uniqueness of individuality brings change. Because this is energetic, individual energy doesn't have to do anything to bring change. It just has to be, and it affects others. So again, just you being you, walk into the room, your energy changes people. The individual circuit is intuitively claircognizant, meaning that when you have a lot of individuality in your chart, you often just know things. And you may not know how you know. You just know that you do. And this spontaneous knowing can drive logical people crazy. Individuality is not logical at all. So I don't know about you guys. Again, we're going to look at each of your charts. But I definitely have a lot of individuality, and I also do have that knowing. I have the knowing channel. And it's one of those strangest things that, I used to just make stuff up, when I was a child and like a young adult growing up. People would ask me, stuff, and I would just know, and I'd be right, but I didn't know how I knew. And so I'd be like, oh, that's this, that, and that, and that. Just make something up. And I wasn't doing it to be, to be, what's the right word? Deceptive. I wasn't trying to be deceptive, but it was just, it always made so much sense to me that it just seemed, like that was the right answer. So I would just, make up an answer, and that's the right answer. And, most of the time it ended up being right. Now I'll still do that, but I'm joking, and I will tell you, I don't know, I'm joking. I'm just making that up. So I'm not doing that right now, though. All right, so there's affirmations for each of these again, and so you can go to the book, or of course, you have the access to this PDF in the portal. You'll be able to look at the affirmations here. So the affirmations for the individual circuit: I am here to be different. I celebrate my uniqueness. I let my inner wisdom develop over time, and I share it with people who ask. I am free to express my powerful uniqueness, and I let my light shine everywhere I go. And I allow myself to be who I am with confidence and grace. Okay, so Lynn, let's take a look here. So Lynn has two defined channels, the 8-1 and the 2-14. And those are the only defined channels that Lynn has, and they are both individual. So, my dear, does that give you any kind of an aha about yourself right now? Yeah. That, yes, your design is very, very, very individual. So let's go back over here, and we're going to look a little bit deeper about this into the sub circuits. So I'm going to skip the integration, and I'm going to skip centering, and I'm going to go right down into the knowing circuit, because that's where your circuitry is, Lynn. And so for the knowing circuit, timing is everything in the knowing circuit. In this circuit, we see both centers for time: the spleen, which is about the now and right action when timing is right, and the emotional solar plexus, which is about the energy for expression after taking time for clarity. Of course, with timing and struggle being a part of the circuit, it's easy to imagine the challenges facing people with significant definition in this circuit. You have to trust and wait for the right time to share what you know. If you do, you'll be considered a genius, and if you don't, you run the risk of being misunderstood. The knowing circuit simply knows, and it doesn't know how it knows. It just knows that it does. And if someone has a lot of knowing circuit definition, which you do, all of your circuitry is in the knowing circuit, and you don't have the logic circuitry, so this would be for somebody else who has that. It says that it can be a doubtful kind of energy. And so you might have self-doubt until you understand how you're hardwired. But for you, I don't think that that's an issue. Is that an issue for you too much? Is there a lot of self-doubt for you? Nope, you just know what you know, right? Yeah, okay. So being heard and waiting for the right timing for words or not is one challenge for this circuit, and the other challenge is listening. And so let's go back over here, because you have the 8-1, you have this connection between the identity center and the throat. So again, being able to really communicate what you know is probably not that hard for you, right? No, okay. And then you also have from the G center, the identity center, down to the sacral motor. So I'm gonna actually talk a little bit more about what these channels are here in just a second. So you have the 8-1, which is inspiration, and you have the 14-2, which is known as the beat. So let me open the book. Let's see here. Do I have the book? Yes, I have it right here. And let's just actually take a look at what those are saying about you. And you may have taken some time to look into that, because I know we mentioned it last week a little bit. All right, so the 14-2, and again, these, because they are in red, completely in red for you, that is like your driver, you know. So this information is actually really going to be something that really moves you through life in a very profound way. And so it would be interesting for you to contemplate this and to really see, like, how is this showing up in my life? Because first of all, it's completely unconscious. And so we know that unconscious is the driver, right? And so you're being guided through your life by this energy that's in these two channels, pretty much exclusively, because those are the only channels that you have. So the beat is the channel, it says this channel is in some ways the luckiest of all the energies in the chart. The 14-2 is about generating and managing resources, usually money, but any resource that's associated with wealth. And you do that line of work, right? So there you go. And the 14-2 works to energize the direction of the soul. So the sacral to the identity, that's that connection. And this channel responds to mutative work, which is transformational work or life opportunities that bring resources that make the journey of the soul easier. It's much easier to follow your life path if you have the resources and don't have to worry about the money. There's an energy in this channel for working to make money, as well as energy for managing and allocating money. When both work together, there's a tremendous opportunity for resource generation. On its own, Gate 14 works very hard to make and save money, while Gate 2 spends it. This channel is the energy of the individual who can truly impact the world. If you're going to be strange, have money, because money will give you power to influence and insulate you from some of the pain of being different. Remember that this is a purely generated channel. The energy in this channel is powerful and mutative, but only in response. So do you get what I'm saying when I say that? I'll read that part again. So this is a purely generated channel. So as a generator, Okay, you have to be in your strategy and authority for the energy of this to be working for you. So your strategy as a generator, waiting to respond and responding to the things that feel good to you, feeling yes and responding to the yes. And if things are a no, it's a no, right? The energy in this channel is powerful and transformational, but only in response. So it's not something that you're initiating anything to make happen. You're constantly responding with this energy. And it says it's in response that the right work happens to bring change. Okay, so does that make sense for you? Okay, so I think that, the sense that I'm feeling with this is that this is really key to your soul level intention. This is something that's going to be really it's going to be really important for you to contemplate. How does this relate to what my soul level intention is? And then the other one is the 8-1, and that's inspiration. So the 8-1 is rooted in the soul direction from the identity center and life force from the sacral. It's a mutative expression, so again, transformational expression that has tremendous yang energy and consequently is pressured to make creative contribution to the world. So when we talk about yang energy, that's the first hexagram of the I Ching. It's a little bit more in-depth than what we're going to go into tonight, but if that's something that's interesting to you, you should look into it. The yin and the yang, the channel 1 is yang, channel 2 is yin. Or sorry, gate 2. And so it says here that, again, there's a constant pressure to make creative contributions to the world through that energy. The channel of inspiration comes from the soul. It speaks from its identity and has certain vulnerability associated with it. It wants to be accepted for who it is and to be recognized for the contribution it makes. If it isn't, it may never make its contribution. This is a projected energy. Okay, so now we talk about projected energy. Projectors, those of you who are projectors, we all can have projected energy, and it does the same thing that it does for a projector. When the energy is projected, that means that it's going right into that G center. It's picking up information about the other person, relaying that information back to you, but only through invitation are you able to share what you know, right? So timing and invitation in this energy is also going to be very important. The mutation of this contribution isn't influential unless it's recognized or invited. Okay, so when you're looking at this inspiration channel and you're feeling inspired and you want to share your inspiration with people, it's about waiting until they invite you. And the reason they're going to invite you is because this energy is projected, just like the projector. Your level of being authentic within this energy is inviting to other people. They will invite you because they see you, they recognize you. And then you'll have the opportunity to share with them what you want to share. Does that make sense? Okay. And so if it's connected to a motor, it will have a better chance of being heard, but it will still be vulnerable. People with this energy are inspiring and are here to be creative role models. While the contribution may not be entirely transformational, its full expression as a creative role model inspires others and can be the catalyst for mutation in the world. The 8-1 has to develop its communication skills to be recognized correctly. With individuality, we know this can be hard. The challenge of being an agent of change is articulating paradigms that are new. The theme here is express yourself or not, but only when you're recognized. If the 8-1 isn't waiting for the right recognition, it runs the risk of sharing from that deep place of the soul and not being valued or heard. Okay, so it reminds me of something that you said, without going into details about that, but just knowing that being correct in your own energy will attract the right people to you, will attract those opportunities for you to share this information, right? There's going to be people there's going to be a shift in the type of people that show up, and you won't have the problems that you've had in the past of people not hearing you because you're correct in your energy. The right people will show up to be gifted with what you know. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So that is Lynn. Any questions on any of that? Please feel free to type any questions in for any of you guys. Type any questions in the chat that you have. And now we're going to go ahead and look at Marina's. Okay. So Marina has the 4037. Most of this energy is personality. So you're going to be aware of a lot of this. And then there's some that's in design, coming from the 40. And then you also have the 2750 over here. So let's go back to the PDF and look and see where those show up. So in tribal, so your energy is pretty much 100% tribal, Marina. So let's go down and look at the tribal. The tribal circuit. So the tribal circuitry is all about family, values, reproduction, and caring. Your tribe is comprised of your friends, family, and neighbors. And so, again, knowing a little bit about some things that you've said to me, without going into any details about that, there can be definite themes that show up. And so the themes of your life in dealing with family situations are probably largely in part due to this tribal circuitry that you have. And so your awareness of these family themes is in part due to the fact that you have this definition, and so it brings you awareness. Does that make sense? It brings you the awareness of these issues. So it says tribal energies are responsible for the transmission of values, allocation and management of resources, contracts and agreements, and birthing and raising children to adulthood. Included in these energies are cooking, education, sexuality, and business. There are two subcircuits in the tribal circuitry, the defense circuit and the ego circuit, and you have both of those. Tribal energy is about allocating and managing resources over time, and the tribe survives because of its resources. So again, we just talked about this. Tribal energy is contracts, agreements, marriage, divorce, treaties, and business deals, religions and religious beliefs, rules, values, sex, sexual bonds, and family ties, child rearing and education, war and peace treaties, defense, and harmony. And so affirmations for the tribal circuit are, I feel good when I am with my friends and family. I feel good when I take care of myself and others. I set good boundaries for myself so that I can take better care of others. I manage my money and my time well. I honor my agreements. Okay? And so we're going to jump in here and take a closer look at these. So the 4037 is in, I believe, the ego. Let's go back over here. Yep, 4037 is in the ego circuit. Right there. And so that energy is about so the energy is coming through from the emotional solar plexus center, the will center, and the root. It is creativity and bringing forth agreement into material form when the timing is correct. And again, we're talking about correct timing. Generators, we need to pay attention to correct timing. The ego circuit has specific aspects that require time for clarity. Tribal circuitry is all about maintaining and sustaining the tribe for generations, and the ego circuit provides the resources and agreements that create the foundation of the tribe. In the ego circuit, we find the energy for ambition, business, sales, money, and resource allocation and management, as well as the energy for marriage, social contracts, and bargains. This sounds a lot like you just from what I know. The parts of the ego circuit that have to do with ambition, initiation of business ideas, sales, and resource management are not emotional. They're not emotional. But the parts of the ego circuit that are about tribal agreements, such as marriages and business deals, are emotional. Again, don't jump into anything related to relationships, especially a potentially long-term one, without waiting for clarity. Otherwise, you'll have the potential for revolution and war, or a big old messy divorce, right? So the channel that you have there is the channel of the bargain. That's the 4037. Okay, so we are going to look at the 4037 for you. Okay. And so the 4037 for Marina, this is the bargain. Okay, the 4037 is a common and very important channel. Contained within this channel is the energy for making agreements and contracts. These agreements are about work, provision of resources, and formalized bonds and contracts. They're all focused around the tribe. The energy for the marriage contract is also contained in this channel. Because this channel connects the will center and the emotional solar plexus, there's energy here for working and creating resources if the emotional energy supports it. That means that after waiting for clarity over time, the correct agreements can be made that will produce the material resources for the tribe. It's important to realize that the marriage contract in its original inception was a business deal. And so that's really important for this understanding, is that we're talking about business deals and marriage, and it doesn't have to necessarily be marriage of people. So I'm just putting that out there because that's what's coming to me to share with you. And I don't know exactly why, but it doesn't have to deal with people all the time, or not in the traditional sense of marriage. So the business deal was connecting two families or tribes and creating resources. In this channel, agreements are made and resources are exchanged as a result. This is the source of the dowry agreement. I will marry your daughter and you will give me 10 sheep. Anytime the 4037 is a part of a relationship's energy, bargains and agreements play roles in maintaining the relationship. Relationships may be made or broken with agreements when this channel is present. Because the energy of bargaining is so natural with this channel, especially if it's in the unconscious design, which you do have a lot of it in unconscious, people with this energy are always entering into deals or bargains, oftentimes without telling other parties affected. This lack of awareness of the bargaining pattern can lead to a broken heart or disappointment, because the 4037 often feels as though people are always letting them down or not sticking to their end of the deal. It's very important when dealing with the 4037 that you always follow through on your agreements. Remember, this is the emotional channel that leads to the heart. The truth is, you cannot make a bargain or a deal if both parties are not part of the agreement process. So it's crucial with the 4037 that all bargains are made out loud and with clear, honest, mutual agreement. Otherwise, there's no deal. So that feels like it really resonates for me with you, okay? And if you know someone with a 4037, it's always easy to gain their cooperation if you offer them a bargain or a deal. This is especially useful to know if you have a child with this channel. So that's for everybody. If you have a child with the 4037, bargain with them. You'll get them to cooperate. Okay, so that is that energy. And again, we're talking about looking at this, contemplating this energy. How does this relate to your soul level intentions? Because this is instrumental in being you and who you really are, and looking at this energy and asking the question, like, what does this mean for me with regard to how what I'm here for, and what I really desire to have, to be creating with my life. Okay, and then the other channel here for you is the 5027. So we're going to look at the 5027. That one is going to be in the defense circuit. $50.27. Okay, 5027 is about preservation. So it says, while sex, reproduction, and war are all emotional and require time for clarity, the other side of the defense circuit, the channel of preservation, is intuitive, immediate, and nurturing. The energy of the archetype of the good mother is contained within this channel. This is the energy for goodnight kisses, bedtime stories, chocolate chip cookies, and the watchful eye of motherhood, helping the child with homework. The 5027 is also about the transmission of values and education. The drive of the 5027 is preservation of the tribe. A tribe survives to reproduce when it's well-fed, educated, and the values of the tribe can be transmitted to the next generation. Time is required for reproduction, but once the child is born, intuitive nurturing for survival is immediately necessary. This is also the energy for the court system, fairness, and rules. It's not emotional. The letter of the law has dominion over the spirit of the law. And so what's coming up for me for you here is, again, it's about those family bonds, those tribal, family situations where you have the ability to notice what's fair, what's not fair, what happened, what was right, what was wrong. To have that awareness is an integral part of your being and who you are, and to be able to trust that what you notice is correct, especially when you are aligned with your own energy and you're so you're acting in alignment with your strategy of waiting to respond and listening to your sacral motor and listening for that yes and that no. That's when this energy works for you. Okay. So it says fair rules can only be implemented without emotions. Rules are rules. So gate 50 is the cauldron where the stew of values is cooked. Gate 27 is the ladle that dishes out the values. Values on their own are nice, but they have to be transmitted. Transmission of values is also crucial for the maintenance of tribal unity. Okay, so those again are your two channels. And that is really, that's in terms of circuitry, you're very tribal, and that's going to be something that's really going to inform the way that you're moving through your life and the things that you're wanting to do, the things that you're wanting, your soul levels, intentions, and all of that. So contemplate that and take a look at it and see what comes up for you around those energies. Okay. All right. Let's see. Laura's on here. Laura, did you want me to take a look at your circuitry? So I'll wait for you to let me know if you would like me to. Okay, great. All right. So all right, so Laura, also tribal and individual and collective. So lots going on here. Lots going on here. Energies, lots of different energies going on here for you. So let's start with, I believe the 6124 is an individual channel, but I'm not going to say that I know that for sure until I actually look. So yes, all right. So that 6124 is in the knowing circuit. Suddenly that got bigger. I don't know what I just did, but we're gonna go with it. All right, so we talked about the knowing circuit already, but we'll go back over it just a little bit. So again, this is where the knowing circuit just knows. Doesn't know how it knows, it just knows that it does. And if you have the knowing circuit, and you also have logic circuitry, we're going to talk about the logic circuitry too. This again is a doubtful kind of energy, and you may have a tremendous amount of self-doubt until you understand how you're hardwired. So let's take a look at the channel that you have here in the knowing circuit, and that is the 6124. I love this stuff. So fascinating to me. All right, the 6124 dimensional subcircuits. All right, so the 6124 is the channel of awareness, okay? And so it says the 6124 is the initiating channel in the knowing circuit. The initiation energy for this circuit starts in the head, which is with inspiration. Gate 61 is considered one of the gates of madness, along with gate 63 and 64. The madness of gate 61 comes from the perpetual question of why. Why? Do you find yourself asking that question a lot? I know that you are also very investigative, so that could be part of that, is that question of why. And so this also leads to inspiration through knowingness, a sudden awareness. Yes, that's appropriate. And so it says here that a sudden awareness of information that doesn't have any proof or logic is what happens in that channel, or in that gate. So gate 24 tempers knowing, focusing on the possible, sometimes filling in the gaps that knowing. Okay, let me read this more slowly. Gate 24 tempers knowing, focusing on the possible, sometimes filling in the gaps in the knowing leaps of gate 61. So your gate 24 is helping you to navigate those bursts of knowing with some additional logic, right? Some certainty about that. Going, okay, there's some reasons why that's happening in my thought process. So thinking is sort of like a sport to this channel. Thoughts flow like waves, much like the emotions work in waves in the emotional solar plexus. The 6124 stretches out their awareness to try to know the unknowable, and this can be very mysterious and occult awareness. This is mutative thinking, again, transformational type of thinking. It's unique and new, and because all mutation has to eventually stand the test of time and repetition, it's a knowingness that has to wait for correct timing. Okay, so even though you're not a generator, Laura, this information still has to be you still have to wait for the correct timing, again, like a projected channel, as a projector has to wait for invitation. In this case, because this is an energy that has to be recognized or invited, that's the projected energy, has to be invited. The knowingness in the 6124 has to wait for an invitation in order for the timing to be correct. So this is something that's really going to be important for you if you're not already doing it, is really diving into your strategy as a projector, waiting for the invitation, figuring out what the invitation is. I think that I've I've heard projectors say that that's kind of hard. It's like, I don't even know what the invitation is. My interpretation of that is that the invitation is you and your uniqueness. It's your unique way of being that becomes your art form. And I think we talked about this the other day, right? So your way, your art is you. And as you develop into your own energy, developing your art form, whatever that art form is, it doesn't have to be an artistic endeavor. It can be just, your whatever it is that you're really good at, but you take it to that next level and you make an art form out of it. That's where the recognition comes in, and that's where people begin to invite you. And it's the same thing with this ability to know what you know, right? And so as with all individual circuitry, this is a deeply auditory channel. People with 6124 often have a deep internal auditory process. It's normal for the 6124 to have a lot of noise or voices in their head. Although it's hard for this channel to be perceived as different, as demonstrated by the melancholy in their charts, people with the 2164 channel should celebrate their uniqueness, that is individuality, and should not take the timing as personal. So the fact that it takes time for people to recognize you is not something that should be taken personally. It's just part of the design and the process. Okay, does that make sense for you? Good. Okay. All right, and so now let's stay in the head and move to the 63-4. This is a logic circuit. So this is interesting that you have both, you have so much definition in your head. This is probably going to be sort of an aha moment for you. So we haven't talked about the collective circuit yet. So let's jump back over here and talk about the collective circuit. Okay, so collective. Oh, it got bigger again. Oh, look at that. Okay, so collective. The collective circuit is all about the survival of humanity. It has two themes, projection and reflection. It projects what is coming next based on lessons from the past, and it reflects the potential and possibilities for the future and shares these with inspiration, stores, and ideas. The collective circuit contains two subcircuits, the logic circuit and the sensing circuit. Collective circuitry is all about sharing, but this is not personal sharing like we see in the tribal circuit. This is pure human sharing, the kind of sharing that comes in situations that involve survival of the species. And so that is definitely something that I notice about you, Laura. Let's take a look here. There's some red here, which is, of course, that's the design. And I do notice that you are a very good sharer of complex and highly sort of transformational type of information that you come across, and just your nature to want to share that information. That is this reflection of this information here of the collective circuit. So people with collective energy, particularly in the logic circuit, will intuitively know how to fix or improve things. This understanding may be interpreted by others as criticism, but the goal of the collective is to express the perfected form of the human experience and to create the infrastructure to support the ongoing evolution and abundance of humanity. As difficult as this may be to understand, this criticism is not personal, and to a certain extent, it isn't even about caring so much as it's about sharing the most perfect form of expression. Well, you might be bossy, but not personal, right? The collective shares because we are one, and your experience is really the same as mine. Even though we are differentiated as two different people, we are still having a human experience that has some common threads. So affirmations for the collective circuit: I'd like to see the patterns in all things. I wait until it feels right to try new things. I share my ideas, stories, and advice with the people who ask for them. Okay? Cool. So the 63-4 is a logic circuit. And it is the circuit of logic, the channel of logic. And this is the initiating sequence of logic. If you were to trace the scientific process from its inception to completion, the 63-4 is the inspiration for the creation of hypothesis. The channel of logic starts in the head with a question followed by a need for proof that is demonstrated throughout the rest of the circuit and eventually shared. It's a highly visual channel, and it's also associated with dreaming and sometimes insanity. The pressure to prove the ensuing suspicion can be challenging if the head center is undefined. Okay, so it's about doubt and answers. That's what's going on in that logic center. All right. And so for you also, 4037, we already talked about 4037. And so I'm not going to go over that one again, just in the interest of time tonight. I don't want to keep you guys here too long. But we will talk about this one here, the 2644. The 2644. Okay, and so that 4037 is tribal. You remember that's about marriage and contracts and agreements and family and all that good stuff. And then the 2644, let's find out where that one is. So I'm going to hop back over here. (2644) is also tribal, and that one is in the ego circuit. So both of your other channels are here in the ego circuit. So mostly tribal. 4426 is the channel of surrender. So it says as we move up the ego circuit, we move toward more energy. The channel 4426 is very complex. The 4426 is the energy for sales and the presentation of ideas. So much energy in this channel is about selling good ideas. It's also the energy for truth and integrity, understanding lessons from the past and transmitting those lessons. Many filmmakers, historians, and journalists carry this energy. With the 4426, we see intuitive awareness to move an idea into form. The energy here is to get the attention of the tribe and to convince the tribe that the ideas are indeed good ideas and worthy of dedication, resources, and work. So for you, Laura, this really reminds me again of, thinking of some things that you've already said to me. Again, related back to the tribe, related back to the family, of being able to sell your ideas. And I think, using this, working all together with the logic centers and the knowing center in your head, and bringing awareness to your family about the ideas and the things that are very vitally important to you, those things that are going to transform the lives of the people that you care about, the people in your tribe. And you have the energy to do this. You have the ability, as long, again, as you are waiting for your invitation and you are developing yourself, you are bringing out the artistry of your own awareness, your own knowingness, your own logic, right? And creating that as an art form within yourself. That's what is going to create the invitation from those people around you, and that's what's going to activate this energy of surrender, and creating the ability for those people to buy into all the things that you know to be true. Okay, does that make sense for you? That's what that feels like to me. And so with the 4426, we see intuitive awareness. Okay, I said that already. Yeah, okay. So it says the 4426 can convince, seduce, or even use tricks if necessary to get the attention of others. This is a very influential energy with a powerful capacity to sell good or bad ideas. The 4426 can be a powerful agent of integrity or a trickster who seduces the tribe into a bad idea. Okay, so where we navigate that is through strategy and authority. We are always going to be correct in our energy when we are experimenting with and practicing and utilizing strategy and authority correctly. Then there isn't really any danger of, bringing forth any bad ideas, because everything that we're doing is working. It's all working together with that energy of who we are. So that is what I wanted to share with you guys tonight. I encourage you to take some time again to really contemplate what these channels mean for you with regard to your soul level intention. For me this week, I didn't mention earlier, but I do sense and I do feel a shift happening within my own self as I'm doing this work and asking the question, like, what is my soul level intention? What do I really want to be creating? What do I really want to be doing? And as you guys know, we've all been together here for 2 months doing this work together. And you may be aware, you may see the changes that are happening for me as I dive deeper into the awareness of whatever it is that I'm wanting to create and the things that the universe is bringing to me that I'm responding to. And there's been a significant amount of change for me in the last couple of months as a result of it, and it's all been better than what I could have tried to plan using my mind, right? By listening to my sacral and moving in the direction that my energy is taking me. So, so just pay attention to that this week. And I think that's pretty much it for tonight. Are there any questions? I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.